They want a world army which would impose the will of the world government. This is what they're evolving NATO and other amalgamation of armies into. It's supposed to defend Western Europe. That was just Western Europe, nothing to worry about. Now it's in Afghanistan. As I predicted in my books years ago, they would find more and more excuses to expand NATO's sphere of operation. And somebody said to me, a journalist said to me, why do they want a world army? Because there'd be no one to fight. Well, what about any country that says, no, we're not accepting the will of the world government? There we go. Under this structure, they want the European Union, which of course is now massively advanced, the American Union, the North American Union, Mexico, America and Canada is well advanced behind the scenes, the Pacific Union, the Asia-Pacific Union, and the African Union, which they already have. And under that will become nation states which they want in the end to break up into regions so that there's no unity of defiance to the edifice of power above them. And the reason for centralization of power is very simple. Any dictatorship that wants to control the many from the few has to centralize decision-making. The more diversity of decision-making there is, the less control any central power is going to have over it. And you look in every area of our lives, centralization of power is going on and on and on. So when we're looking at identity cards, I mentioned on that previous slide, the last point there was the microchip population. When we look at identity cards, that's not the end. That's just the stepping stone. I said years ago, way back in the early 90s, to much hilarity, that the agenda was to create a microchipped population linked to a global computer. Well, people ain't laughing anymore, because microchipping is becoming more and more prevalent. The ID card is only part of the move towards it. The idea is for microchip people. In the end, babies microchipped at birth after they leave the womb as part of the birth process. Barcoded people. These microchips are going to be much smaller than this as they progress. This is a story from UPI, which I'll read to you if you can't see it at the back. The US Department of Health and Human Services said Thursday that it was about to begin testing a new technology designed to help more closely monitor and assist the nation's homeless population. See, that's what they do when they're bringing these things in. Start with the most vulnerable groups and then expand it out to the whole population. Under the pilot program, which grew out of a series of policy academies held in the last 2 years, homeless people in participating cities will be implanted with mandatory radio frequency identification tags that social workers and police can use to track their movements. Data from these tracking stations mounted on telephone poles will be transmitted to police and social service workers who will use custom Windows NT software to track movements of the homeless in real time. In what has become a chronic social problem, people living in shelters and on the streets do not seek adequate medical care and frequently contribute to the rising crime rate in major cities. Supporters of these subdermal chips tracking say the technology will discourage implanted homeless men and women from committing crimes while making it easier for government workers to provide social services such as delivering food and medicine. Oh, that's very kind of them. This is the world that we're so rapidly moving into. Same shit, different asshole. Except this is fascism at the technological cutting edge, which allows more control than ever Hitler could get. Coordinate 3. How do they do this? The power of the pyramid. You can also use the symbolism of the spider's web, but the pyramid will work, because that's how it operates. The system operates in its structure a system of pyramids within pyramids, like Russian dolls, one doll inside a bigger doll inside a bigger doll inside a bigger doll. They have pyramids inside bigger pyramids inside bigger pyramids. If you look at any organization today, this university, for instance, any government, any business, any corporation, they're structured as a pyramid. At the bottom, you've got the vast majority of the people working for that organization. And as you go up the pyramid, you're meeting fewer and fewer people, but they know more and more about the agenda than those below them. It goes the other way and the other way, of course. And then eventually, you get to the capstone of the pyramid, the organization, and there are the tiny few people who are the only people that know how it all fits together and know what the real agenda is. Everyone else is at different levels of ignorance for what the organization's really about. And the idea is to hoard knowledge, some of it very, very advanced knowledge, well beyond anything we see in the public arena, in the hands of the few, and to keep the mass of the people in ignorance of that knowledge. And if I know really significant things, like the nature of reality and how we create it, and I keep it from everyone else, I am suddenly in a position of massive power. Because of this pyramid system, the network of interbreeding bloodline families going way back to the ancient world, they occupy the capstone of the pyramid. The people we think are in control, like prime ministers, presidents, heads of the World Bank, etc., they're much lower. They are not the people in power. They are the people who are placed in positions to administer into reality the policy dictated from the shadows, from people that the mass of the population have no awareness even exist, let alone how they're manipulating the system. So people focus on Bush, and they say, oh, it's Bush, he's a vehicle. He's not Big Brother. He's just a guy who's placed in a position of power for a short period of time, 8 years or so, and then he'll be replaced by someone else who will do the same job. What doesn't change is the force behind the people we see who are dictating the policy, which is why the policy doesn't change when governments do. This is the pyramid within pyramid system. The banking system is a pyramid. You go into a bank, the person you hand your check over to won't know what's happening in the bank manager's office behind them. He won't know what's happening at the next level and the next level until you get to the clique at the top of the bank, and they're the only people that know how all the different contributions fit together. Because the vast majority of people, like 90-odd% of people, who are daily making contributions in various ways to building this global prison state, have no idea they are doing it or the end that is behind it. Only the few at the top do. So you've got people in all these different organizations and institutions who are making their contributions every day. They're not trying to build a fascist state. They've got children who are going to have to live in it. But they don't know how their individual contributions, innocent in themselves, how they fit together to create anything but an innocent pattern. Only they do. And so, by controlling the top of these various pyramids of institutions within society, they dictate a common policy. And at the heart of that is the constant and incessant centralization of power, so the few have more and more power with every passing week. This is the top of the pyramid, manipulating those representing the top of the pyramid in the movie to create the manipulation that takes us down the road to tyranny.